Hey, Cavs fans, Spencer German, Spencer Davies, Spencer Squared, back with you at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. Game 3, Celtics, Cavs in the books, and I sound excited. I think I'm just exhausted at this point. So um, it wasn't a win for the Cavs, as we know. 106-93, they lose tonight. Celtics take a 2-1 series lead. Game 4 will be on Monday, but Spence, we have a lot to discuss, obviously, about this game specifically, and we kind of talked about it before we came on live here. Like, this felt like it followed a similar script to game 1, where I didn't think the Cavs, other than the third quarter was miserable. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But other than the third quarter, I didn't think they played all that poorly in trying to compete with the Celtics. Like, they were hanging in there. The first half was a lot of back and forth. And then things just kind of spiraled a little bit in that third quarter, and they couldn't dig themselves out of the hole. And then that was kind of the difference in the game. But it didn't feel like they played terrible. It just wasn't enough against, again, an overwhelming Celtics team.
Yeah, it was a little bit of too little, too late, too, from Darius Garland and Caris LeVert. Caris LeVert got going in the second half after it seemed like he was playing in quicksand in the first half. And then Darius Garland, again, just couldn't get off to a good start as far as his scoring goes and as far as his shooting goes. Donovan Mitchell and Evan Mobley were really the only ones to produce for the Cavs in that first half. And it was just kind of tough for everybody else to get going. Isaac Okoro, he didn't bring over his shooting from Boston back
Which
home.
Is weird, but
because they got good looks, and something that was interesting about tonight too is the Cavs. They got into the paint. You saw when Donovan Mitchell got in there. You saw Darius Garland got in there. Even Caris LeVert in the first half, but they just could not make any shots at the rim, and that was interesting because Boston doesn't really have a rim protector when Kristaps Porzingis isn't in the lineup. And, Luke Cornett will be in there. He'll put his hands up and alter some shots. And, they were big for them on the offensive glass, him and Al Horford. And same with, even Jayson Tatum had some really good rebounding tonight as well. But, they just didn't make the bunnies. And I think Karras pointed to that. But I found it interesting that Donovan Mitchell pointed to the first quarter as the way that the game kind of get the tone set. He was just talking about how the Celtics were allowed to have shots that they did not let them have in game 2, as far as not running them off the three-point line, making them comfortable taking those threes. Even though Derek White got off to a bad start, and he still didn't have the greatest of games tonight, he made 2 big ones in that run to start the second half. And Derek White, he was allowed to have those open shots, right? And some of the other guys like Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday was doing such a good job tonight of shielding the ball away from the bigs when they were trying to contest, and when he got switches, because Drew Holiday is a big guard. So he was able to do a really good job of backing guys down, Evan Mobley included, and really making sure they didn't get blocked. So that set the tone, really.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting point by you of Donovan bringing that specific part of the game up, especially because the Cavs were playing well at that point. I mean, they were hitting their shots.
They were only down 1 or down 2 after the first quarter.
Right. But something maybe we didn't necessarily notice immediately upon just watching this game unfold is that you're right. Like, the Celtics were getting a lot more of those shots than they were in the first 2 games. And that obviously was a point of emphasis. JV Bickerstaff's talked about that, not letting them have the easy threes, making it harder for them out there. So I'm sure that'll be a point of emphasis going into game 4. I also just think the rebounding differential, Cavs were out-rebounding the night 44-35. They won the rebounding matchup, I think, in both the first 2 games. I know for sure in game 2. And I think that was a big difference in today's game as well. I don't even know that we have to spend a lot of time talking about Donovan Mitchell, but another brilliant performance from him. Hit 33 points. He's now scored, I think, 189, something around there in terms of points he scored in the last 5 games over now an 8-day window. So he was phenomenal.
If I could, just one thing on Donovan, it's just crazy to me that the Celtics were content with putting Al Horford on Donovan Mitchell, and Donovan was guarding Al Horford on the other end too. So those two were matched up. But any time that Donovan got switched on to Al Horford, he would just pull up and make a 3. It was crazy. He had 6 threes in the first half. It was insane. And anytime Donovan was just trying to get a guy like Drew Holiday or Derek White off of him and find a switch, he was just making them pay every time. And then in the second half, obviously Donovan's going to be gassed because he was doing so much of the heavy lifting. They put Drew Holiday on him after that, and what happened? Donovan started to slow down. The other guy started to pick up a little bit, but Donovan started to slow down.
Yeah, he was 7-12 for 3 for the night. I think it was actually 184 points he's now scored over 5 games in 8 days, which is obviously impressive. Guy's been phenomenal. I thought Evan Mobley, too. There's been a point of emphasis this entire series of, let's get him going early. Let's get him involved. Let's make the offense more about him. And I think we saw that again tonight. He had 11 points at the half, finished with 17. Maybe went a little bit more from him in that second half, but they also went away from him for a little bit too.
Yeah.
With some of these different lineups that JB Bickerstaff tried. What do you think of Evan Mobley tonight, though?
I liked Evan's aggression again. He was definitely being assertive, and you want to see Evan be assertive the way that he kind of carried that from the end of game 1 into game 2. We saw the dominant performance he had in the first half. And in the fourth quarter in game 2, I thought that he did a good job of starting off well tonight. They were looking for him over the top. He was passing out of the catch too, and I think that was big. Cavs just didn't make those threes out of the corner, and that's a big part of that. And Evan had a few point blankers that he missed, but otherwise, I think that he had some really good, strong finishes tonight. A couple dunks.
We mentioned some of the role players in this game, and that's been kind of the story of the season. And I do feel, or the series, and I do feel like in a game like tonight against Boston, the difference again just feels like their role players at home or on the road are making the shots that the Cavs just aren't. Like it's Isaac Okoro having a rough night tonight. He was 1 of 7 from the floor. It's Max Strus having sort of another rough night. And those are guys who you thought they played well in game 2. And I felt pretty good about this game for them tonight because it was like, okay, you're coming back home. If you can replicate that with the home energy behind you, usually role players play better at home, and it just wasn't there for them. You mentioned Karras had a slow start, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, like the Celtics role players, they picked it up. Like they were hitting those shots. It was just weird that those guys weren't able to kind of replicate that even a little bit back home. But that feels like the big difference in the series right now is just like the one game where the Cavs played as in sync across the board with everybody getting involved. And contributing is the game that they won, and they won by a lot.
Yeah, and Peyton Pritchard, give him credit. He had some big shots there towards the end of the game, really separating when the Cavs made their final stand. Peyton played a really good game. I think that you brought it up with Isaac Okoro and Max Strus. I think they're doing a good job defensively. I think they are. I think they're keeping in front. Yeah. I think their rotations have been really solid on defensive end, especially when help is coming. But Max Strus is going to need to be more productive on the offensive end.
You're just waiting for the shots to fall for him, and they're just not, which is unfortunate.
And we keep going back to it, and you hate to pigeonhole a guy, but this is what you're brought in for. This is what you need to do.
This time of year.
You have to make the shots. And I mean, you can even give Isaac Okoro a little bit of leeway because of what he did in the first 2 games in Boston. But Max is just not making threes right now, and most of them are good looks, really strong looks, and you start to wonder whether or not they're going to fall. He's an ignitable guy, and he's been doing a lot.
Stealing that from Eric Spoelstra. I see what you did.
Yep. And I did steal that straight out of Spo's playbook. But Max is doing a lot on the defensive end. He's being asked to guard Jayson Tatum. He's being asked to switch on to Jaylen Brown. I understand that, and he's very good at doing a lot of things that check other boxes. But this is the one box that he was brought in here to do. Yeah. And he's going to need to get to it because this is getting bad now.
You always appreciate Strus's efforts. Yep. He's always going to give you 100%. Yep. And I think that's why he still finds himself in the starting rotation because, the guy's good. And when he's hitting the shots, you see why they paid him. But, the Cavs are looking for a little bit more from him, especially in a game now in Game 4. That feels like your season's kind of on the brink here. Dean Wade. Back tonight, I thought he provided a little bit of a spark. Mm-hmm. He hit a big 3 sort of a couple minutes in.
Right when he came in?
30 seconds into stepping into the game in the first quarter, he knocks down a 3. He finished with 5 points. I think he had 3 rebounds, 3 assists as well. So he found some different ways to contribute. I thought what was most interesting about Dean Wade's presence, though, is some of these lineups that you and I talked about during the game that JB Bickerstaff deployed with him in it. It was a lineup that featured him, Sam Merrill, Caris LeVert with Donovan Mitchell on the floor.
Max Strus.
Mobley was off. Max Strus was on.
Yep.
Like they was these smaller lineups. They didn't really have a rim protector, but they were clearly emphasizing spacing. And I thought that was an interesting wrinkle that JB Bickerstaff kind of added to his arsenal tonight.
Yeah, and I think JB went to it as soon as the Celtics went on that huge run, right? They went up by 20-odd something points, something like that, and tries to go to this smaller lineup, and that coincided as well with Evan Mobley getting hurt on the other end, so he had kind of no choice. But I think they found a little bit of a groove offensively with that because Donovan's going to have so much more room to attack, and if they send 2 to the ball, you're going to have 2 or 3 shooters to be able to pass the ball to out of that. So I'd like to see them go back to that. How many times have I talked to you not only just in this series, Spence, but even in the Orlando series, when Max Strus and Sam Merrill are on the floor with Donovan Mitchell. I love that trio. I just think that so much good can come from it because they have to pay attention to the shooters on the wing, and that gives Donovan Mitchell some space and some room to operate. And again, if they send two at Donovan, that means one of those guys is open, and that's either an open three or you put it on the floor and you're making the team shift.
Space has been, I think, a buzzword, not only for us, but I think the Cavs this entire season. To see them sort of use that lineup and try to create some more of that in an authentic way, I thought was cool.
Yes.
And listen, I want to be clear, guys, because I tweeted out there, I put out there that he tried this lineup, and some of my mentions were just brutal. Ripping JB Bickerstaff. Oh, he's an idiot. Why is he trying this? Guys, I don't know what JB Bickerstaff's supposed to do sometimes. And this isn't me trying to defend JB Bickerstaff. Like, he's a grown man. He's an NBA coach. He knows the coach of the territory. He's going to get criticized. But he's trying some different things in this series. He knows that he's outgunned in a lot of ways against the Celtics team. I can't blame him for getting Dean Wade back and feeling like, hey, let's try something different here.
Yeah,
it was like a 2-minute spurt. And I actually think during that 2-minute spurt, they outscored the Celtics. I think they outscored them 6-2 or something like that.
They did. It proved effective.
Right. It worked. So I'm not. Am I saying JB Bickerstaff should start the game with that lineup? No, of course not. But if he's going to try some of these different things, this is what people are asking him to do. They're like, try something different. Play Sam Merrill more minutes. He did that. He did these things. He's trying to get Dean Wade more involved and get him kind of back acclimated in the flow of the offense.
George didn't play tonight at all.
Right. I understand that there's reasons to criticize any coach in the NBA. I'm not going to. It's your right as fans to do that. I just thought that in this moment, it was okay, this is a cool thing that he's trying.
Yeah.
And at least he's trying something different. If it doesn't work in the long run, it doesn't work. But he tried it in a game where he was trying to kind of get a spark. And in some way, it worked a little bit, and then he reverted back to bringing out Evan Mobley and getting rim protector back out there.
Yeah, and I think that's just the kind of lowest hanging fruit possible for a lot of people. And I understand there are definitely criticisms you can have of JB Bickerstaff, but I feel like they just kind of grasping at straws at this point. He's played everybody in this group that you can. And you got to think of this, too, because a lot of people, have asked me about Craig Porter Jr. as well. That guy's still dealing with an ankle injury.
He's still injured.
And what else? Who else are you going to look to on the bench? That's what I'm saying. Marcus Morris did only play 5 minutes tonight. So if you have a gripe with that, I understand a little bit. But you got Dean Wade back, so Dean's going to have to play, right? So it's just hard to fit them all in together. This is not a JB Bickerstaff thing. This is a guys got to make their shots thing. They got to make the bunnies.
Especially the bunnies.
Yep. It's just
games,
one of those
in
things.
Game 1, it was you weren't making the threes, and in Game 3 now it was they were missing the layups. That to me can't be JB Bickerstaff's fault.
No.
It's on the players to finish. We always like to end with this. We've been doing it throughout the playoffs. Something that you're encouraged by from Game 3, something you're discouraged by as we turn the page and look ahead to Game 4.
Encouraged by. This might shock a little people, but shock a little people. What does that mean? Shock a little bit.
Hey, it's okay, man. It's almost 1 o'clock.
It is almost 1 a.m.
You
This may be shocking to you, but in the fourth quarter, I saw Darius Garland look confident. I loved the way he was attacking the paint. I loved the feeding to Evan Mobley, attacking using his floater, pull up three again. It looked very good. I'm thinking that Darius Garland can use kind of the blueprint that Evan Mobley gave, right? At the end of Game 1 in a blowout, Evan Mobley found a rhythm by making 4 or 5 shots, getting some confidence on the offensive end. What happened in Game 2? Evan Mobley had the best game of his playoff career for the Cavs. Challenged Darius Garland to do the same thing. He had a flow there at the end of the game today. It was too little too late, like I said, but that's something they're going to need. Donovan Mitchell can't be... You can't have the Donovan Mitchell 40-50% usage thing. It just does not work sustainably in this league against guys like the Celtics. So Darius Garland, see what happens in Game 4, but I was very encouraged by the way he finished this game and was able to impact winning on that end of the floor. Even though they came up short, it was something. And they didn't fold, too. They didn't fold when they were down by 23-24.
What are you discouraged by?
Discouraged. The lack of consistency from the bench. I feel
very fair.
Karis LeVert, it's so hard to figure out what Karras is sometimes.
Didn't tonight sort of feel like a microcosm of just like who he is as a player?
First half, I swear.
Streaky, always streaky. First half, he was awful.
Yeah.
0 for 4 from the floor, and then second half, he puts up 15 points.
Yeah, I used the word quicksand. It just looked like he was just kind of. I feel like a lot of the guys in the first half were kind of jittery a little bit, big crowd, big stage, or the primetime game on ABC, ESPN, in front of everybody, or the only game on. And it just seemed like things were a little bit up, like the adrenaline was high. Yeah. So discouraged, I would say Karras' inconsistencies, and then one more discouragement. Again, Max Strus. He's got to make threes. Threes.
I think I'm discouraged by what we talked about and what Donovan talked about with those the first quarter threes that Boston was making, and the fact that was something they had emphasized and they sort of let up on, and that got Boston hot. Now you wonder how that plays into Game 4 when you got guys like White shooting now the ball well here. You want to kind of get them in a situation when they're on the road where they're not comfortable in that environment, and they already feel like they're comfortable here in Cleveland. So now they're going to try to come out and bury you, put you in a 3-1 hole, and see if they can finish it off at home in Game 5. So I'm a little bit discouraged by that. I think it's an obvious one, but just the bench scoring again continues to be so inconsistent, and that's something we've talked about all playoffs. I hate to keep going back to that but it's the biggest difference. In the game the Cavs won, those guys played great. And I think that's another discouraging part of this is you thought they were going to play better at home or play similarly at home with the home crowd behind them, and they let you down. Now you wonder what that does for their sort of psyche going into Game 4. But hopefully they erase it like they've been doing all playoffs, and they can come back out and play strong. Encouraged. I continue to feel really good about Evan Mobley. I also just think, and I've alluded to this, I get it. The Celtics are a juggernaut team. But in none of these games have I felt like the Cavs don't have a chance. And I felt like even after that third quarter, and as bad as it was, Celtics went on a 14-0 run to start that quarter. As bad as it was, they kind of clawed their way back, and they got it to 9 a couple times, and they just couldn't get any closer. And that's a testament to Boston just being a good team. When they get that big of a lead on you, it's going to be hard to erase it. But I feel like they're right there, and if they could just get those shots to fall, maybe we're talking about a team that's up 2-1 versus down 2-1.
Yeah, and JB Bickerstaff kind of talked about it, but they didn't run him off the line too much. But at the same time, Jayson Tatum made a lot of contested shots.
He was
Jaylen Brown.
He matched Mitchell with 33 points, and Jaylen Brown was really efficient.
Jaylen Brown went 13 of 17 from the field. He went 12 of 17 in Game 1. This guy is doing everything to get into the paint and finish.
Highest paid player in the NBA.
Finish in traffic and also just shooting with hands in his faces all the time. So it's impressive what those two can do. Yeah. And then you add in again Drew Holiday, the way that he kind of set the tone. I tweeted this out, man. His patience with the basketball should be on instructional videos. It is very, very nice to see the way that he kind of is so calm in the moment, and that comes from his championship years with the Bucks, right? So that's something that the Celtics went out and got, and that's a huge part of it.
By the way, how the hell did the Celtics end up with Drew Holiday after all that shuffling? That still blows my mind.
Yeah.
That they traded for Kristaps Porzingis. Everyone's like, oh man, that's a good move for them. They're gonna be really good offensively. And then on top of that, they got Drew Holiday out of the whole thing because the Bucks were doing their whole thing and trying to get Damian. Just wild to me. You look up and down this roster, it's crazy how deep they are. And listen, it's
Drew's a future Hall of Famer. Hopefully, people know that.
I mean, he absolutely should be. He's got
Defensive
a ring now.
Player of the Year award.
On top of that,
not Defensive Player of the Year, but contention for Defensive Player of the Year.
He was wasting away for so many years in New Orleans, and now he's just out here.
I remember when he was in Philly, man.
That's true.
That's
Philly
how old.
too.
That's how old
Philly
I am.
too. And now he's chasing championships. So good for him. Anyway, guys. We appreciate you watching.
We're
as
getting
always.
silly now.
Yeah, it's you can tell we got those 1 a.m. vibes. We appreciate you guys watching as always. Be sure to head over to si.com/NBA/Cavaliers.
Say that 5 times fast.
Yeah, really. You can read our work over there. I put up my 5 takeaways from the game tonight. Just some instant reaction, including those lineups that we mentioned here on this video. But as we'll also be back for Game 4, which is Monday, doing more stuff like this. So make sure you follow, like, subscribe the Cavs Insider YouTube channel. as well. Until Monday, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers
Happy
out
birthday,
there if
Mama.
you're watching as well. And we'll talk to you guys again soon.
I botched that. I said happy birthday. I meant happy Mother's Day, Mama.